Hi everyone, welcome to Poisonous People. A few months ago, somebody left me a question on one of my videos, and the question was very simply, can a child be a narcissist? Not only am I going to say that yes, a child can be a narcissist, I'm going to actually take this a step further, and I'm going to make the very shocking claim that all children are narcissists by birth. Now, you might be saying, my God, that is really extreme. How can you make such a blanket statement about children? Children are so sweet and innocent and precious, and you're saying that every single one of them is a narcissist? Yes, I am, and that means that you and I, at one point, were originally narcissists. So in order to make this argument, I want to cover 3 points. Let's start with point 1, the nature of children. I believe that it is human nature for people to be narcissistic. If you've seen my videos before, you've heard me say narcissism is human nature. NPD is human nature on steroids. The point is, narcissism is a spectrum. All humans have narcissism. Where did it come from? When we ask that question, I think we're looking at this the wrong way. It's not that narcissism came from someplace. I believe that we are all born narcissistic. How many people have gone to parenting classes to teach their toddler how to be more selfish? How many people have spent countless hours training their children to be more self-absorbed or put themselves first, or not spend so much time thinking about how the other guy might feel? This is not how normal parenting goes. We don't have to teach children how to be selfish. We don't have to teach children how to be self-absorbed. We don't have to teach children how to be entitled because they already know how to do that. In fact, all parenting is geared toward training children out of those narcissistic tendencies. So you'll constantly see parents telling their young children, Johnny, share your toys with your sister. Timmy, it's not nice to push everybody out of the way so you could be first in line. When you go to a grocery store with a toddler, what usually happens? The toddler grabs something off the shelf, shoves it in his mouth, doesn't think anything of it. In fact, what's probably going through that toddler's mind is, this is mine. So there's already an innate sense of entitlement. What the parent has to do is take the toy away from the child and put it back on the shelf. And then, of course, what kind of reaction do we get? You took my toy. How dare you? So all of us start life this way. Let's now move on to point 2. Children, especially young children, have a tendency toward fantasy and very fantasy-like thinking. Now, I find it funny that we call this fantasy, because when an adult fantasizes, the adult knows this is just a fantasy. This is just for fun. But when a child fantasizes, it actually fits the definition of a delusion better than it fits the definition of a fantasy. You and I can fantasize about winning the lottery and quitting our jobs and just traipsing around the world for the rest of our lives. But we know that's not real. We know that's a fantasy. Children, I would argue, are more prone to delusions. Now, we're more polite about it because they're little kids and we call them fantasies, but the actual definition of a delusion is a steadfast belief in something that is not true, even when it's been proven to be false. The person will still believe that it's true. Children believe that there's a monster living in their closet or that there are monsters under the bed. Many children have an imaginary friend that they really swear is a real person. I know when I was in first grade, I I actually believed that my teacher lived under her desk. My mind never formed a vision of her having her own separate life. It's like, if you're my teacher, that's your whole reason for existing. Your purpose in this world is to be my teacher. You don't have a life outside that. But that's a perfect example of how children don't really have full-blown empathy to be able to think that other humans have their own separate lives, that these other humans exist solely to serve me. So if there are narcissistic thought patterns at that young age, when they're still in fantasy stage, they may actually continue throughout life believing that they are entitled to anything they want, or that they are better than other people. That is, in my opinion, the number one risk factor for having NPD as an adult. It's not necessarily being traumatized or abused or neglected or spoiled. It's something happening in early childhood when the child is still open to very irrational thinking. And then that irrational belief system or worldview is not corrected or outgrown by the time the child establishes a full personality. This is where we come to point 3. How does NPD develop? And I would argue that NPD doesn't develop at all. NPD is something that was never corrected or outgrown. Nobody's born with perfectly straight teeth. But if you want to train those teeth, then you put on some braces to move those teeth the way that they should go. And then once the treatment is over, the teeth look beautiful and they're straight. And they stay that way. They don't go back to being crooked. I mean, some of them might shift slowly, but isn't that just like you and me? That many of us could have been properly raised and taught the way that we should live, and then maybe something happened to us later in life and we shifted slightly back into our original position. But overall, we're not people with NPD. If we have crooked teeth and we never put braces on our teeth, they're just going to stay like that. And so that's why I would argue again that everyone is born crooked in a way. Everyone is born with these flaws, these character flaws, and our parents will do their best or not to straighten us out. And if we don't outgrow those early habits, they become a lifestyle, and they become a lifestyle because they're actually ingrained in our personality. This has to do with what I call criterion 0. Basically, criterion 0 helps us to determine if the person's behavior is out of the ordinary. When a child is very young, we can't discern if their narcissistic behavior is out of the ordinary. If a 6-year-old throws a temper tantrum, we don't know if that's NPD or if that's just immaturity. If somebody is a narcissist by age 6, we're not going to know until they're like 20. That doesn't mean we should give up on the child. We shouldn't give up on anyone. So even if you are a person with NPD, you shouldn't give up either. There's no reason for anybody with NPD who would like to improve to say to themselves, I can't get better because this is how I was ever since I was a child and I'm not going to change. You're not going to change, but you can improve. And I like to think of therapy as a type of surrogate parenting. Therapy is an opportunity to learn skills that we should have learned when we were very small, but didn't. And we will probably struggle with certain character flaws our whole lives, but that doesn't mean we should just throw in the towel and let it all hang out. And I'm a terrible person, so I might as well just do bad things and live up to that reputation. There's no reason to have that attitude. So I hope that this helps you better understand my position on why I believe all children are narcissists, and naturally why I believe that the greatest risk factor for acquiring NPD is early childhood. I'm Jen Guerriero, and this is Poisonous People. Thanks for watching.